Hello, everyone. My name is Altramise Roberts-Tompkins, and I am a senior engineer with Toyota North America's Environmental Sustainability team. I also serve as the CWEEL's U.S. and Programs Committee Chair.
Hi, my name is Jade Harris, and I am a marketing manager at DNV. I am also a CWEEL member and sit on the Marketing and Communications Committee. Welcome to CWEEL and DNV's Juneteenth chat with our special guests, Amber Booth-McCoy and Dr. Anthony Everett.
So Amber and Anthony, would you all like to share a little bit of background about your organizations and yourselves?
Sure. I am Amber Booth-McCoy. You can call me Amber Nicole. My pronouns are she, her, and I am your favorite diversity specialist. I am the CEO of Diversity Booth, which is an inclusion, equity, and social justice firm located in Central Arkansas. We focus strictly on trying to create and co-create inclusive cultures, environments, and whatever it is that we can do for social justice in every space that we occupy.
And I am Dr. Anthony Everett, and call me Anthony. My pronouns are he, him, ours in a progressive sense. I'm a public theologian, social entrepreneur, and prophetic activist. And I'm the founding president and CEO of Alpha Management, a consulting firm rooted in prophetic activism that develops transformative action plans and tools for businesses, nonprofits, and faith-based organizations. Prophetic activism is that mixture of faith-based activism along with social, political, and economic focuses, really focusing on justice.
Yes.
Impressive.
Yes, yes.
That is very impressive. Well, thank you guys both for being here today. As everyone knows, we are here to talk about Juneteenth, right? So that's kind of what's brought us to this platform right now. So question for both Amber and Dr. Everett. Describe your thoughts on Juneteenth with 3 words or less.
My 3 words are: rest is revolutionary.
Ooh,
That's
a good reminder.
Mm-hmm.
For everyone out there.
Yes.
So my 3 words would be remembrance, justice, and liberation.
Good show.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, those are awesome. Awesome words. So I guess my next question then for Dr. Everett, since you brought up liberation, what does liberation in this country mean to you? And as it relates to Juneteenth and kind of the history behind that, what does that mean to you?
That's a great question. So what liberation means to me in this sense is one, looking back at what actually took place on June 19th, 1865, when the Union soldiers led by Major General Gordon Granger announced the news that the war had ended to these folks in Galveston, Texas. And this was like 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation had taken place. And so now I can see liberation for those people that received that word at that particular time as one of jubilation, one of excitement, one of celebration, knowing that they are no longer forced to work for people, free labor. And so I see it in that sense. I see it also, though, as the struggles that we continue on and have continued on over the years that have brought us to where we are now. Whether it was going against the different laws, the black codes that took place recently after that, Jim Crow laws and what have you, whether it was the civil rights and the Black Power movements, whether it's the movement for Black Power that we are enthralled in right now. Liberation, that focus has never really stopped. It continues on.
As far as the history of it and what that means to me, I believe that freedom is a birthright. I believe that individuals and sentient beings are born free. So there is this need for liberation, and I, being the daughter of a principal, absolutely love the dictionary. And so liberation, the definition of of liberation says a movement seeking equal rights and status for a group. So I think that, there's this, like, Dr. Everett said, this remembrance that is necessary for us to be mindful that already free people, because freedom is a birthright, were emancipated by the government from forced labor. And there is a celebration in that. There is a celebration that is necessary in that. I think that when I think in 2022, it is a reminder of culture. I mean, across the diaspora. And I think about that when I think about our language. Juneteenth is short for what? For June 19th, but it's in Ave. It's said the way we say things. So there is a national holiday that not only celebrates what happened on that day, but it is said in the language and with the, like in the spirit of which it happened and in the spirit of which we pass down things. So for me, it's the reminder that the diaspora is vast. Our story is one of tragedies and triumphs, and it is still here, and it is not something that should not only be forgotten, but something that we should continue to amplify, but be mindful that each and every one of us are a part of that same history. Every single day that we put our feet on the floor, we are making Black history. So that's what that is to me.
So then I guess I'll take the next question. So oftentimes when we talk about Juneteenth and I guess just being Black in general in America, there's always kind of like that negative and positive side, right? So all in all, I know we all thoroughly love being Black people. Like it's embedded in us. We love our culture. However, there does come with downsides to it, and Juneteenth in general. So how does it feel to talk about both the pride and the struggle of being a Black woman or being a Black man in America? And it can be professional, so it can be at work, it can be in personal lives. Kind of talk to us about that.
I think that there's conversations that need to be had as it relates to not only our struggle, but the responsibility of everyone involved, as it relates to our community. I think that, well, one, everybody wants our rhythms and nobody wants our blues, right? So that's a conversation. That's a conversation, you know what I mean? Like our likeness, especially Black women. So I'm going to speak specifically from the point of, as a Black woman, my likeness is used to sell everything from vaccines to hip hop culture. And then my voice is not only ignored, but not amplified in spaces like hospitals and implicit bias, and think that like we can't talk about misogyny if we're not going to address misogynoir. So I think that there is this important conversation that has to be had, not only in the Black community, but how do we uplift and edify the Black woman? Because that is it's necessary. We literally birth, heal, and bring together communities. And more often than not, we drag culture along as the mule of society. And then when change happens, everybody gets off the mule and everybody's like, okay, how we get here? But we know that the civil rights movement started from Black women saying, we are not going to, continue to allow our bodies to be violated. We're not going to continue to allow these certain things in our community. But we talk about Malcolm, Martin, and Mandela, at the end of the day. So it's necessary for not only us to talk about it with people who are not in the diaspora, but in the diaspora as it relates to being a Black woman. But two, when we're talking about people not in the Black diaspora, it is exhausting to have to continually cut myself open, and expose my trauma to allow for the emotional growth and learning of people who are not like me. We often, especially like I'm in academia, we take so much pride in studying things, and yet there's work that can be done that doesn't require my emotional labor. So it is necessary for you to do your work. If you truly want to understand what systemic oppression is like, what racism is like, then it is necessary for you to understand and research that from Black people. Stop learning about racism from white people. You know, I love me some Jane Elliott, but there are Black women, you know what I mean? Like that have been, you know, saying these things, some behind me, you know, Audre Lorde and other Black women that have been saying these things forever that you could have learned those same things from, you know. So it's necessary for you to amplify, again, the voices of Black women, especially our Black men, because we've done it for them for so long.
No, I would reiterate all that you said, and I would go on to say that we need more Black men that recognize that we need to speak positively and upward for Black women. I think of two people, one being Malcolm X, as well as Thomas Sankara, who was in Burkina Faso. Both said that you can tell how developed a society is by how their women are treated.
That part.
And it's so important for us to understand that. And so when we on this side of the pond here in the United States of America, that focus has to be on our Black women in our communities. You know, if we were to listen to Black women, there are a whole lot of problems that we wouldn't have in this country and in this world. That's a fact, because our sisters have been so downtrodden and so have been so messed over in so many different ways. And so it's important for men to understand, listen, to get rid of our heteropatriarchal ways, you know, and to recognize that women are not only equals, but women lead us in a lot of different ways and different things. That's extremely important. Other part of that, though, goes to, you know, those who want to be allies, those who want to be, I say allies, but I think allies is one level. I think there's another level called an accomplice, you know, and then if we want to take it to the next level, there's a co-conspirator.
That's what I look. That's what I use. Yeah.
And co-conspirators are we invite them in, you know. But a lot of times we have allies that want to say, okay, we're gonna go ahead and save Black folk, you know, and we don't need salvation from folks that want to be allies, because it hasn't happened, not in this country, for over 400 years, and it won't happen. You know, only we can work together to make things equitable and just, you know, and in doing so, we liberate people.
Yep.
Both Black and white and whoever else.
That's it. I think that it's important to note that we use that word a lot. We use ally a lot nowadays. And I am very much looking for co-conspirators. I'm trying to see who's trying to get in good trouble with me.
Right.
But the other part of that is, if you're going to use ally, I want you to use it exactly how it was, you know, created. When nations go to war, if there's an ally, that means that I go to war with you. You get in trouble, I go with you. And that means that your consequences are my consequences. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you experience issues, I experience issues, period. Like that is what allies do. That's why we have NATO. That's how we know if you move on this country, you got 5 other people coming along. You know what I'm saying? Like that's it. So understand that if you call yourself an ally, that means that you understand, first and foremost, we are at war. And that you are fighting not only on the same side, but are willing to experience the same consequences that I do.
I want to just add into that those allies, as well as the others, need to make safe space, create safe space for people of color, Black, Indigenous people of color, and especially for women. There needs to be safe space that we're able to express ourselves, do the things that we need to do. We know that when people feel comfortable in safe spaces, they are more creative. They are able to do a lot more things. And I think from a business standpoint, it hits the bottom line in a positive way. So,
very much so. Very much so. I mean, diversity in and of itself is a business case that makes itself. But diversity without equity and without inclusivity is null, you know. Don't invite me to tables where you want my likeness for diversity, but not my voice for equity or inclusivity. You know, I don't want to entertain those spaces. because I do have something to offer. And more often than not, we talk about things such as imposter syndrome. And I honestly don't think that that is a thing for Black, Indigenous, and people of color. What I believe that to be is Black, Indigenous, and people of color having experienced unwelcoming spaces, right? Whether that be explicitly based on white supremacy or racism or discrimination. And I get to the table, and because of that discrimination, I question me instead of questioning you. When I know what I did to get to the table, I know exactly how confident I am in what I've done, you know? So being mindful that there can be, if Black people don't do this work in internalization, you know, of incompetence, that can also be a barrier to our success and our liberation at the same time.
Yeah. Can I add in one more thing?
Yes, please. That's great.
Okay. So, and I love this conversation, but that imposter syndrome, you know, I've heard of, I see people talk about it. And what I've come to the realization is the same thing you just said, that it's this internalization of, you know, the fact that we're not in a welcome space. And so what I've learned to do is to make every space welcome for me, regardless, because what I look at is that I had my great grandfather, George Harvey Everett, who was a minister, and he was a brick mason. He had his own business. He was in Jackson, Mississippi, and all his neighbors were sharecroppers. He was able to move his entire family from Mississippi to Washington, D.C. and work on some of those federal buildings. And so now he did this, made this accomplishment, but for his dream for his progeny was that all of us would become doctors. So now I'm Dr. Anthony Everett. My little brother is an oral surgeon, Dr. Dwayne Everett. So, you know, we accomplish these things and we're living his dreams, you know, and that's the space that I work in. I don't care about what others might think about who I am. You know, I am Dr. Anthony Everett. And if you're lucky, you can call me Anthony.
And I'm an ad. No. I will say that I definitely, what I call that is taking up space. And the taking up space is a responsibility. I have a responsibility to take up space. And for me, that means bringing my full 360 self, right? That means that I'm going to come in spaces and it's not about code switching. I'm bilingual. I speak Spanish American English and I speak African American vernacular English, and I'm going to use them interchangeably. I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, this is not me being anyone that I'm not. I'm going to use those in professional spaces because it's a part of who I am. But it's also a reminder that I can pay homage and respect to the work that's been done. But I also remind myself that they were wearing suits when the dogs were sicked on them at Bloody Sunday. You know what I mean? So like, yep. So suits and dressing nice and being professional has never protected anyone. So when I come in a space, being my whole self, the responsibility of that for me is that I come in taking up so much space, that 3 people can sit down next to me. That's how much space I want to take up. I want to take up so much space, 3 people can sit down next to me and they can come in and be their whole self, and 3 people can sit down next to them. But 2, I don't want to put the next person behind me in a box, because if I do this regimented and rigid way, then they have to fit into the box that I left. And I want there to be so much room for the person behind me that you get to come in and go, golly, you stretch your legs out in the car that you was like, this is what me. You know, like that's what I want for the people behind me. And sometimes that looks like taking what we call corporate risk. You know what I mean? Like, that means that there are some times where I'm going to have to spend my political capital or be willing to, deal with the consequences that come along with me being my whole self. But I'll do that if that means that the next person behind me has more room to be themselves.
Yeah.
That is strong right there. Yeah.
All of it.
You just try to tell people how can you be the best in what it is that you do if you can't, like you said, bring your whole self to the table? I mean, you can't be anybody else but you. So
that's it.
And
they only have
we kind of come to that,
But it's powerful because there is only one you. You know what I mean? Like, the number of decisions, and I am under the impression I don't have to be wise if I could just quote people who are. And I absolutely love the movie A Wrinkle in Time. And they were talking about how all of the decisions that happen that make you. Like your grandmother meeting your grandfather, if he had been late to this situation, right? And they wouldn't have met, there'd been somebody else there. If your mother hadn't shown up to this one place, all of these things, all of these decisions that had nothing to do with you, that birthed you. I owe it to bring everything I am, because that's what brought me to fruition. You know, having not been here before, then yes, I owe it to the people behind me and the ones coming after me to bring everything I have. Leave it all on the table. I don't want to leave no money on the table when they put me out. When they put me down, I want them to say she gave it all, everything she was, not my being. Because as I said, rest is revolutionary. And for me, the conversation has to be had that there are women that I admire, like Fannie Lou Hamer, who was sick and tired of being sick and tired. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, whether that's Sojourner, whether we're talking about Audre Lorde, all of these women who fought, and there was still work to be done when they left. So for me, even conversations like Juneteenth must include our ability to say it's okay for me to pause and understand that rest is a part of that revolution. That the fact that our ancestors were enslaved and made to do forced labor, that me saying on Monday, I'm not doing nothing. Don't ask me nothing. Like, you know what I mean? Because like, what you don't have is pictures of Coretta in her pajamas kicking it with her friends. What you don't have is Fannie Lou at happy hour, you know what I'm saying? Like chilling, like, and that would be a powerful thing, because to me, we've been taught to martyr ourselves for the cause. We've been taught to sacrifice everything we are. And we know people who did that, and there was still work to do. So if the next, you know what I'm saying, like part of this transition and the next part of our revolution is understanding that I get to rest, and that rest is not only part of the revolution, but protest in and of itself, that says my worth is not found in my productivity, you know, that I am more than what I accomplish, and that I am enough if I do nothing else. So I think that that's a powerful thing for me to remember, especially on Juneteenth, because that's something that until I saw Osaka, honestly, you know, Naomi Osaka and Simone Biles pause and say, I've done it already. Like you're not going to, there's always this narrative that Jordan played with the flu and Kobe played with a broke hand. And I say, that is traumatic. Why would you want that for someone else? You know what I'm saying? Like, why? Like, we pass down this trauma. My mama worked 7 jobs and she did this. That is tragic that had to happen. But why would you want that trauma for me? You know what I mean? Like, acknowledge and pay homage to the past, and acknowledge that if we do it differently, I can value myself in a way that says, there's already been roads paved for me, and I can honor them by not killing myself on those same roads.
Yes, that is, man.
Word.
Get the church.
Okay.
I can change my name to Reverend.
Become a doctor.
So, I would just say that I agree wholeheartedly. I'm just enthralled with Amber was just saying, you know, I mean, ditto, you know, that's what I have to say about that, you know. Yeah, ditto. I truly agree with that. I think, again, I go back to mental health. You know, it is so important for us to get the mental health that we need. And all of this, Juneteenth is all about mental health. You know, if we can look at MLK Day, that's all about mental health as well. The most important thing is Juneteenth is something we celebrated anyway. Whether Joe Biden said, hey, it's going to be Juneteenth.
That part.
We already decided a long time ago it's going to be Juneteenth. Guess what, Joe? We invite you in to come in and join in with us and celebrate. And maybe it'll be some mental rest for you as well. You know, that's part about.
No. I'm sorry. And listen here, for me and my beliefs, I firmly believe that February and Juneteenth should be days of rest for us. But racial equity in a racially equitable world, in a post-2020 where everybody is a George Floyd, I made a George Floyd statement and now my company wants to do this world. What that looks like means that not only are we going to pay Black people for their labor, right? That we're going to stop asking Black and brown women to sit on DEI committees, because see, what you saw in me was leadership ability. So promote me. Don't ask me for free work. Don't ask me for my labor, because I'm already dealing with, you know what I mean, what I'm dealing with in your company because of the fact that you need DEI. Additionally, you do the work during February and Juneteenth.
Mm.
It is like, what I know is that there are people like Dr. Everett and myself. We're going to show up for every Juneteenth event that you asked us to show up to, every Black History event. But that is also part of the emotional labor. So that means that we're going to go cut ourselves open over and over and over again so you can learn what you could already learn over and over and over from centuries and decades before us. So during those months, I genuinely feel Black people should rest. That you can have you can celebrate Black history in April, as in your company. Corporate America can celebrate Black history in April if you truly believe that my Black life matter, or like this necklace says that I'm rooting for everybody Black. If you truly believe those things, then you can do that. You can do it in July. You can do it on the 4th of July. You can make a special event for me on the 4th of July that says you get a Black day. We know that this has been a tragic, that the history of this can be traumatizing. Go ahead and take a Black day. That's what I want to see. I want to see companies that are actually being intentional about making sure that not only is my whole self welcome, but that you've put policies in place that allow for equity. Don't ask me to do the work during times where I've already been doing the work all year and then overwork me. You know what I mean? Like, I want my white allies to step up during this time. I want my Asian allies to step up during Juneteenth. I want y'all to show up and say, this is what Juneteenth is to your peers, to your friends, and stop making me cut myself open.
Yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly. Yeah.
I love that. And I think that ties into what we were talking about before about allyship, right? So I think allyship and co-conspirators, and I think you kind of filter out who's an ally and who is a co-conspirator when you start to
filter themselves.
Exactly. Yes. When you start to bring things like that up, because like you just mentioned, once 2020 came around, companies were putting out certain DEI messages and initiatives, and as you can see, normally when things like this happen, they taper off and it just becomes regular conversation. We're not really pushing it to the needle like we should be. It's more so this is the number that we have to hit within our company to reach our goal. So I guess the next question would be, what does white corporate allyship look like? So again, I know, Amber, you had a few ideas. Let's celebrate us all year round. But what are some things that like our colleagues could do to be allies, or co-conspirators, I should say? Forgot we're changing that terminology.
I would say that intentional inclusivity is moving from asking who's at the table to asking who's not at the table that should be at the table. And did they get detailed instructions to the location of the table? And then upon arrival, a chair and a microphone, So what corporate allyship or white corporate allyship looks like, are you being a cultural ambassador? As Dr. Everett said, we don't need saviors, right? What we need is amplification. We've had ideas. We've had the innovation and the creativity and the leadership ability. Are you taking the time to not only recognize that in me? Are you being able to not bring me into a space, but don't bring me into unwelcoming spaces? You know what I mean? Like what I'm facing. So be a cultural ambassador, but I also don't need you to speak for me. When we get in this room, you hand me the microphone. Stop. Again, that looks like promotions, and stop asking for committees, because that's still you asking me for labor. You know what I mean? Like when you could be promoting me and I can make policies that allow for these same things. It means that you are explicitly addressing implicit bias and anti-Blackness. It's so easy for companies to want to talk about racism, but if you're going to talk about racism without anti-Blackness, then we're going to still be going around in circles. How do we know that? Because there's already an Asian, hate bill that was started in 2020, and the anti-lynching is still on the floor, So again, being honest, and then white allyship also looks like you making space for my whole self. I have white friends that are in corporate America that are going to check on me in a different way. In fact, that's one of the most powerful things in those friendships that I didn't know I needed until it happened. I was doing a workshop with one of my co-conspirators, who is most certainly a co-conspirator. He gonna be on the front lines with us. His name is Donald Wood. And we were doing this session virtually, and he said, pause, I know that my colleague has lots of information to give, but she's also the only Black person and person of color in this space. Amber, are you okay? I was fine right up until he asked me that. Like I was okay. At which time, ugly cry happened, and
Could have let it all out.
but that's the thing. I was at work, so we're used to doing what we're doing, right? We power through. We all of that. I was just fine until it was, wow, he just checked in on me. Not checked in on Amber like just Amber. He checked in on Black girl Amber in this space. Are you okay? That is most certainly what co-conspiratorship looks like. Like when I don't have to tell you that I need to show up as my whole space. When he says, hey, honestly, I watch the news. I know that the, Breonna Taylor verdict didn't go down the way it needs to. Let's go ahead and cancel today's meeting. You sure right. Because I showed up because I'm used to, but I'm grieving all over again. And I can't bring my whole self right now because I'm a Black mother. I'm a Black woman. That's what white corporate allyship looks like to me. When you are making space and not only acknowledging my whole self, but making sure that my whole self is not only comfortable, but you're allowing for the justice that is necessary for me to be in just relationships with those spaces.
Yeah. I would add on to that when we talk about this whole idea of being co-conspirators, I think that's this at this level where first and foremost, you're looking at the leadership within that organization explicitly being supportive of what Black people are doing, Black, Indigenous people of color, whatever our identities are, that they are supportive of those things. Goes back to that creating space, allowing for space. But also, I think what's important is that they are looking at their institutional structure and saying systemically, how are we hurting these folks? Yep. And so now, and looking at that, basically saying that, okay, there might be more than reform that needs to take place. Maybe there's some transformation of the structure that needs to take place. And oh, by the way, when we're looking at how we change, what our theory of change is for all of this, then we're also looking at the objectives and goals that we create, not being SMART goals, but being SMARTY goals, goals that are inclusive and equitable as well, so that we can get to these just outcomes and that we can liberate some folks that are hurting and that are in pain or that find themselves in a place where they can't move forward.
And stop building programs for people when they're not at the table. You cannot, you cannot tell me this is for me, and then build it without me. Like bring me in at the end and be like, and see, this day we're celebrating watermelon and chicken for you. Did I ask you? I ask you for that. That's like that ice cream that came out, the Walmart.
Right.
Nobody asked you for that. See how that's a problem? Like if you had asked us, well, what do you want? We would like you to support Black businesses. We would like for you to support small Black businesses, pour into Black communities. We don't want this ice cream. And you know how we know? Because you ain't asked us. Because I have not yet met anyone in the diaspora who was like, oh, I'm going to try that. No, nobody wants that.
Yeah. And that's exactly what happens when you don't have the appropriate people.
That's it.
Yeah.
Like,
either
stop
you
capitalizing off my Blackness and allow me. You know what I mean? Like you have capitalized off my Blackness long enough. You have made money off of everything Black, period. From melanin to my likeness to, like my labor, all of it. Allow me to do that in a way that is not only equitable, but it speaks to the reparations, right? Like to reparations literally means to repair relationships. So how can you repair this relationship with me and my community? And you can't know that until you ask. You can't make amends without actually knowing what hurt me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think the reparations comes well before reconciliation. Yep. I think you've got to repair the situation.
That's it.
You say, okay, let's get resolved. You can't have no kumbaya moment and that take care of where the pain is hurting and all.
That's it.
And address the wounds and what have you. That's just because we as African Americans, Black folk, we are quick to forgive folk and not so quick to call them to the carpet on whatever it is that they've done that has been unjust for us. And we're tired of bleeding. We're tired of hurting. We need to be in a space where people are able to feel like the harm that has been done is being addressed. And when I feel that way, then we can have a better relationship. We can reconcile, because of the things that we've had to deal with. But until then, it's like, you're just pouring more. You're pouring vinegar on the wound.
I think. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I'm sorry.
And I don't think as it relates to repairing, those relationships, it is also about understanding the ones that I don't want to make it seem like symbols don't matter. It's very necessary. You know what I mean? Like when those statues were being taken down, especially if you understand the history in which they, and you know what I'm saying, the time period in which they were put up, it's necessary to take those down. It's necessary to speak to history and context. In repairing those relationships, it's also necessary for you to make concession for past and present, right? And to not just think that throwing a Band-Aid on it, like just throwing money in the community doesn't help the systemic issues, right? Just promoting 5 Black people doesn't help the fact that your middle management is still, all white, but your C-suite is still, 1%, people of color. It is also necessary to take into account people as their whole selves and the intersectionality of identities. You know what I mean? I'm Black all day, but being Black and being a woman have never been separate from me. I have never just been a woman, and I have never just been Black. I have always my entire life been a Black woman. So understanding the intersectionality of that and saying that, yes, while it is nice for Dr. Anthony Everett to have gotten this job, he is representative of the diaspora, but not of my identity in totality. You see what I'm saying? And it's important for people to be able to see themselves, and because representation matters. But I also, last thing is that we always keep inviting people to the barbecue. And I'm just, one, I feel like we need to vote on that as a whole. We have got to just stop doing that. But 2, I have a rule. I'm not inviting you to the barbecue unless you invited me to the boardroom, right? I'll let you in when you let me in. We always talk about people that we invite, like y'all invited Joe to the barbecue, but we invited Joe because he stood next to Barack for 8 years. You know what I mean? Like, if we're going to be honest, I remember how you treated Anita Hill, right? Like at the end of the day. So it's about saying, that's fine. They invited you you invited them to the barbecue, but did they invite you to go see Creed? No. Then we have a problem in this relationship. Right. You know what I'm saying? Did you get to go see Hoobastank? No. Okay. So you just giving out the chicken and the to-go plates, but you are not. You know what I'm saying? There's no reciprocity there. You taught somebody how to electric slide and then learn how to 2-step.
Yeah.
That's not fair.
It's got to be accountability.
That's it.
It's got to be there.
Accountability.
Yeah, that's on point.
Oh, by the way, I can 2-step. Yes, I can. I can do-si-do. So.
So invite, please.
I want to drive this message home and kind of switch it up a little bit, because I know we've talked about what allyship looks like outside of our community. So what are the necessary steps we need to take within our community to help create allyship and co-conspiratorship within ourselves and hold each other accountable for helping us to move forward as a whole, without leaving people out, without leaving people uneducated about where they come from. I know that's a big concern as we move forward in the future generations with losing that.
One of the things I would say is that it's extremely important. I'm going back to what I said earlier. Our healing, and especially our mental health healing, is so important, because what we find is that we're hurting each other, and people hurt people. That's the reality. And so if I'm hurt, then I can't be, a good, I wouldn't say ally, a good member of our community.
Yeah.
That is helping our community grow forward and move forward. When I'm hurt, I'm going to be doing things that are going to hurt others and as well hurt myself in the process. And so I think we have to come to grips with that. we've got to deal with our own psyche. We've got to deal with who we are. I love that Amber says that diaspora, because I see myself, always have, as a young man, have seen myself as part of this greater African diaspora, you know? And so I think that's so important, our identity, understanding what our identity is. And within that identity, you know, how we treat others and then we treat ourselves as well. You know, what's the healing that we're doing to take care of ourselves? So are you, you know, I remember watching Insecure, you know, and they were talking about self-care Sundays, you know. What are you doing to take care of yourself? You know, what is it? Are you doing some yoga? You know, are you, I mean, now I'm a minister. And so, yeah, I think, you know, church is very important, but what are the other things that you are doing that's going to help you to be who you are authentically in whatever space you might be? You know, also, you know, I've done martial arts, you know, that's important to me to be able to do that. You know, is it yoga? Is it martial arts? Is it meditation? Are you getting the massage that you need, you know? And then are you doing this in community? Well, part of my community is my wife. So right now we are doing salsa dancing. You know, I always wanted to learn salsa, but we're learning now. I ain't doing the two-step, but I'm doing that salsa dancing. You know, and so now, you know, but it's important. And even in that, in the salsa dancing, my wife is a leader, you know, and, you know, she's learning to not necessarily be the leader all the time. That's important because Black women are leaders, you know, and sometimes, you know, it's good for a Black woman to be able to say, hey, I don't feel like being the leader this time. You know, let me just go ahead, either be resting in my place by myself or allow for someone else. Remember, I said, allow for someone else to lead, you know? And so I think that is so important. I think that we get the personal self together, then we can deal with all the rest of the stuff a lot better, you know? So that would be my answer to that.
Ditto. Right. So yes, and yes. I think that we do have to start with self, right? Before we can go outward, because you can't pour from an empty cup, first of all. You know, and understanding that I have to work on me. It's also true that when I am in good places and I encounter individuals, on my best days, I can say, "Ooh, I hope they heal," you know, and on my worst days, I can't say it on camera. But it's also a reminder that healing is not linear. You know what I mean? Like, there are days where I am fine, and then there's something that may take me back, and that doesn't mean that progress hasn't been made. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes progress is the amount of days that you went before the setback happened, or, you know what I'm saying, what you learned from that. It's not this linear process. I think about healing like a scab. We've had a scab, and that situation where you picked it too early, and you knew you picked it too early and it hurt, you know what I mean? Like, it had to start all over again. Like, that is what our community essentially goes through every single time there is a national injustice. Every single time we are hurt and let down, you know what I mean? Like, there's this, we want to heal collectively, but understanding that we're gonna have to find it internally. We're gonna have to find it in our community, because, I mean, this system is operating exactly the way it's supposed to, right? It's also necessary for us to understand that to do the work, we have to process our internalized racism. It is extremely necessary for us to deal with that. You know what I mean? Like, I talk to my boys all the time that if you showed up to the voting place in your drawers and Timberlands, they still have to give you the ballot. You are a citizen. You know what I mean? Like, so breaking down these ideas that I need to be the model minority, breaking down these ideas that as a Black woman, I have to know everything, right? Because we've been told we have to be twice as good for what? Half. Lies. No, I do not. if I'm twice as good, you need to pay me twice as much. Valuing myself, valuing myself is a part of unprocessing, you know what I mean, that internalized racism. Understanding that I can acknowledge how the system is, but I don't have to treat me how the system treat me. You know, that my worth is that, yes. And that we get to search for our own authenticity. The thing to me that's beautiful about the diaspora is that it is so vast. And the truth is there is no one way to be Black. And I know that because this is my Harry Potter wand, okay? I use this often, okay? I conjure my Patronus and I say my spells all the time. And I don't mean my Yoruba ones. I mean, I use my Harry Potter spells. And that does not change the fact that I'm Black. My name is Amber Nicole, and it's as Black as I want it to be. There is a freedom and a liberation in and of itself in determining what your Black looks like, and that it's quite okay for you to explore that. You know, that you don't have, if you hip hop ain't your thing, that's okay. That's odd because it's everybody else's, but that's okay if it's not your thing. But you know, just being mindful that also, if you're seeking to be a leader in the community, there is a point in, like, I feel like in my career at this point, I get to be a microphone passer. I've had enough microphones that I can assist in elevating, you know what I mean, those around me. If someone says, are you coming? I say, I can come, but I got to bring 3 people with me. You know, and I'm bringing 2 people with me every time I walk in someplace. Like, I don't care what the opportunity is and where I'm going. If you ask me to moderate a panel, I'm picking at least one of the panelists, period. You know what I mean? So there's that. And then the Drumline movie, when he said, I chose you because you like the sound of the band more than your own drum. It is necessary for our leaders to remember that no matter how big your platform and no matter how much you get, the sound of the band and not your own drum is mighty, right? And that if I am getting to a point to where I am being exalted, honestly, by those who don't look like me, it's possible I no longer resemble my community.
That's deep.
Yeah. Awesome.
Martin Luther King wasn't liked when he was here, but now he's quoted a lot, right? So if we get to the point to where the oppressor is quoting those who we hold in esteem, it's necessary for us to also reshape and form new leaders.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So thank you for joining us for our Juneteenth chat. And if you want to learn more about our awesome speakers, AEE and CWEEL, the information is provided here or in the description if you are listening.
Let us know in the comments how you celebrated Juneteenth. If you're watching this video, don't forget to like the video and share with your friends and family. Happy Juneteenth.
Happy Juneteenth.